Hey, what is up models, it is Blue Jono here, and before we get into today's video, there's something I'd like to say. I'd like to let you all know that we have a merch store. Some of the items in it are only available for a limited amount of time, so if you're interested, go into the description and check it out. Each purchase helps us make more content. Now, I just want to let you guys know that this series is going to be veering away from the typical light-hearted what-ifs we have on the channel. We'll be going over some darker and more explicit imagery throughout the series. Viewer discretion is advised. If you are below the age of 18, it's highly recommended you click away. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Marching all the way, yeah, here we go! Numbers of NC Bakugo! Bakugo shouted as he leads a group of other kindergartners, one including the quirkless Izuku Midoriya. As they would march on, Izuku would smile brightly, looking at his surroundings. Forest and green beyond the eye can see as the gang began walking across the log. This log acted as a bridge overlooking a mild river. Izuku, for a brief time, wasn't paying attention and tripped over a small branch that was sticking out of the log, causing him to fall. He landed chest first onto a rock in the river, penetrating his chest and breaking his ribs in the process. Blood flowed into the river, and Izuku was seemingly lifeless. The rest of the kids ran off in search of an adult, screaming at the top of their lungs, while Bakugo stood there, shaken up by the scene beneath him. Bakugo would throw up on the other side of the log, collecting himself soon after. He took off in a fit of adrenaline and worry for Izuku, losing his way in the forest in the process. Near the river, there was a strange-looking flower. A worm rose up from that flower and began to move around as it would start to pick up on the scent of fresh blood flowing downstream. Swimming around to the source, it swam through the very light stream of water flowing down the hill and would find itself in contact with something. A human. The worm would slither, finding an opening where Izuku was impaled, climbing its way in, and began digging its way into his heart. It began eating up Izuku's insides, spreading itself throughout Izuku's bloodstream. Izuku was still suffocating, however, due to all the water flooding his lungs. This forced the parasite to mature before reaching Izuku's brain. It had access to every other part of the body, except the head. Izuku's body began moving on its own while he was still unconscious. The wounds began to regenerate as the parasite forced Izuku's unconscious body to drag itself onto the rocky shores of the river. Some time would pass, and it was now the dead of night. Izuku opened his eyes, slowly pushing himself off the ground, struggling in the process. He sat back down, collecting his memories and where he is. Where am I? Isn't I with Bakugo and the others? Izuku continued to look around, standing up slowly, feeling his chest to the slight pain he felt from the rock before. I'm scared. Izuku would continue to rub his chest, tears flowing down his eyes. There was some pain, but no wound. Continuing along a path from the log uphill, Izuku found himself wandering around all night, until he saw a few lights in the distance. Unknowing to him, it was a search party for Izuku. He would continue down the dirt path towards the lights. He got closer and closer as he raised his arms up, blocking some of the bright lights.
Hey, I see someone over here!
They immediately crowded around the boy, and all the bright lights pointing at him in the dark caused him to pass out. Izuku opened his eyes to the sight of a white ceiling while hooked up to an IV, looking around, being more confused with what he's seeing, noticing he's now inside of a hospital room. Ow, my head. What happened to me? Izuku would attempt to remove the IV from his arm, only to realize he doesn't have a hand. It's just a nub. Izuku jolted out of the hospital bed, dragging the IV pole with him, only to see that something was reading a book at the desk across from him. Izuku flipped a chair to face him to see an organism with an eyeball, a mouth, and feet entirely made out of skin reading the book. This caused Izuku's initial reaction to jump back and sit on the floor as he looked towards it.
Oh, I see. You're finally awake, are you?
The little thing made out of skin hopped off the hospital chair as it would begin to re-merge itself back into Izuku's hand, forming a mouth on his palm in the process.
That's good. I've been looking forward to talking to my new living partner.
Izuku, being about 5, was still pretty shaken up by all of this. Not sure how to react. This strange thing just turned back into his own hand.
What are you? What have you done to me?
Izuku's torso began to open up, like a sharp spiraling ribbon with teeth.
Don't you mean what I did for you? You'd still be dead down by the river if I didn't intervene.
Izuku's chest would close again as his arm would slide right off him, growing its own limbs to walk around as it stared at Izuku to continue the conversation.
Right now, the only thing that is still, well, you, is your head. Aren't you lucky?
Izuku, still seemingly out of it, responded.
What do you mean? I don't want that!
The living arm sighed as he picked back up the book on biology.
The heart, a precious organ for you humans. At least that's what it says here in this book. This organ is where I've kindly injected myself into my host. However, since you were drowning, I couldn't quite make it to your brain in time. So now your whole body, except for your head, is technically under my control. However, for the sake of our survival, I won't do anything to inconvenience either of us, since we're technically one now.
The arm would then combine itself back with Izuku's shoulder.
I'm tired. Please rest while I'm asleep. Luckily, the IV is keeping you hydrated, so just rest.
Izuku would pass back out on the hospital bed, just listening to the weird thing, basically taking this entire thing as a dream and pretending none of it actually happened. A few months passed, and Izuku woke up in his bedroom. Throughout these few months, Izuku became more acquainted with the Parasyte. Izuku scratched the back of his head while walking to the bathroom to get his morning routine along the way. Walking downstairs to get ready for his first day back to elementary school since the incident. Inko was in the kitchen, cooking for him a big breakfast while he made his way downstairs, all dressed and ready to go. Izuku began to fiercely eat the food on his plate, now that he's basically eating for 2. It's painfully obvious that he's been noticeably hungrier in the past few months. Inko would look at her little boy and smile. Jeez, Izuku, if you eat that much, you'll start looking like me in no time. Izuku laughed a little bit, shoving the last of his food in his mouth, looking at his mom.
What are you talking about, Mom? You're perfectly fine the way you are.
Inko would laugh and shoo him off to school, quickly getting him out of the door.
Oh, stop it, you rascal.
Before we get back into the story, I would like to say that we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive is a channel based on a variety of anime lore. If you are interested in content like this, make sure you click the icon in the top right corner or check the description below for a link to the channel. Now with that out of the way, let's get back to the story. Izuku would begin walking to school with his backpack flipped over one shoulder, waiting on the sidewalk for the school bus to get on the way. Looking over, he would spot Bakugo walking to the bus stop with the rest of the crew. They would all look at Izuku and smile running over to him, Izuku smiling back.
Izuku, are you okay? We were so worried.
Bakugo kinda stayed back from the rest of the group as they surrounded Izuku. Izuku scratched his hair as he smiled, talking with the rest of them. They would be asking questions such as,
Do you have any scars?
just small little things like that. Bus finally arrived and Izuku was on his way. When they all arrived at school, Izuku switched into his school uniform and began walking to class. Izuku pulled out his hero quirk journal, flipping through the page, reviewing and studying to make sure that his info is correct.
Man, heroes are so awesome! When I grow up, I want to be as great as Heroes All Might! Can it, Deku? You'll never be a hero without a quirk.
Not sure how to react, Izuku turned around to face Bakugo, keeping his composure. It was bewildering to hear that Bakugo still treats Izuku poorly, even after a near-death experience.
Why are you always so mean, Kat-chan? I've done nothing but look up to you, and you still look down on me. You're letting that freaking quirk of yours get to your head.
Instantly, out of pure second nature, Bakugo blasted small explosions from his hands, taking a dominating attack pose.
What was that, nerd?
Izuku got into a fighting stance as well, not backing down from Bakugo's threat. This pissed off Bakugo, and he wants to lunge at Izuku with his signature right hook, backed by explosions. Izuku dashed to the right, dodging the explosions, leaving a crater in the school's floor. Izuku kept alert, standing back up in his recovery. He brought his left leg back, getting into another dash position, overthinking Bakugo's next attack. Bakugo once again lunged at Izuku. Izuku retaliated by running straight towards Bakugo, throwing him off. Izuku ducked down, dodging another blast that was aimed towards his face, standing straight back up, headbutting Bakugo's chin. While this occurred, Bakugo wouldn't give in so easily, grabbing Izuku's shirt, catching himself in midair, blasting Izuku's face, causing him to launch back and hit the wall. Izuku coughed a bit as the air was blown right out of him. He would begin to stand back up slowly on his hands and knees before getting stepped on his back by Bakugo, pushing him to lay back down, hovering his exploding hand over Izuku's face.
Don't move, you nerd! You can't beat me! You're quirkless! This is why you can't be a good hero!
Izuku gritted his teeth as tears started to swell up in his eyes. Izuku clenched his fist. Frustrated and denying the sad truth, he faced away from Bakugo and started to get angry again, sweeping his foot against Bakugo's ankle, causing him to trip over, and Izuku stood back up.
You always look down on others, Kat-chan. Empathy is part of the essence of being a hero!
Izuku's forearms began to split into two revealing muscle fibers, with blades sprouting from the tips. Bakugo took a few steps back. There was fear dwelling in his eyes. Izuku's muscle fibers sprouted eyeballs down the thick muscles, all looking directly towards Bakugo. Lips formed along the tendrils as well, as they spoke.
Small child known as Bakugo. You will do well to back down now. Izuku is a boy. I hate for him to draw first blood this early.
The whole school began to scream and run away from Izuku, including Bakugo.
Villain! There's a villain!
All the kids shouted as they were frantic and desperate for escape. Izuku had a scared look on his face, slowly looking to the side towards one of his arms, the eyes looking directly at him, seemingly menacingly.
Don't worry, Izuku. You will be safe, as long as I am here.
Even though it was a warm and kind gesture, Izuku took it as some kind of shaded threat. Fear enveloped Izuku's entire being, as his arms slowly morphed back into their normal shape and size, covering themselves in skin. Horrified, the teachers sent Izuku home, hoping he wouldn't lash out at them in the process. Regardless of the Parasyte's threat, Izuku didn't retaliate against the teachers, who basically forced him out of the building. Izuku was suspended, as well as Bakugo, for using quirks in public. Izuku for a lot longer for his quirk threatening Bakugo. A few more months passed, and now it's winter. Izuku's suspension was lifted at this time. Grudgingly, Izuku walked his way back to school. Snow fell from the clouds above, down on Izuku. Walking through the snow, breathing into his gloves to warm his hands. Izuku was just all comfy and cozy for the cold weather. Because of the Parasyte, Izuku's more sensitive to temperature. Izuku arrived at his middle school, switching his boots out with school shoes and taking off his coat, revealing his school outfit. He kept to himself while going through his day. The other classmates kind of stayed clear of him because of his weird quirk. Eyeballs, teeth, all in places where they shouldn't. It's all the kids would think about from that day. That is the rumor that went around from the other students. He would be made fun of as well, being called names like freak. Ironic, considering even people with freakishly weird quirks would even call him names as well. Bakugo kept his distance. Seems as if Izuku got him pretty good, keeping away out of fear. After a pretty long and harsh day at school, Izuku felt put down by his classmates. This obviously wasn't good for him. He was just hoping that every day wouldn't be like this from now on. Izuku missed his old friends. Hell, even Bakugo, if even just a little. But there's no way for him to confront them right now. After arriving home, Izuku took his shoes off at the doorway before closing the door behind him. He looked up, and his somber face began to light up at the sight of his father, standing at the end of the hallway, Hisashi Midoriya.
Papa!
Izuku bolted straight towards his father, with open arms leaping in for a hug. Hisashi laughed as he caught his little boy. Oh, who is this young man? My son was way smaller than this. Dear goodness, look how big you've gotten! Izuku let out a healthy laugh, putting on a big, genuine smile while hugging his dad tightly.
You're such a silly papa!
Sashi set Izuku back down on the ground before grabbing his jacket. Come on. You, me, and your mom are gonna be headed out tonight. A special dinner to celebrate my return. How does that sound? Izuku's mood brightened up even further as he jumped around in excitement.
That sounds totally awesome, Papa! Come on, let's go!
Inko gave a slight chuckle. You see, Inko decided to get even closer to her son after the incident happened, understanding that she had to take responsibility for Izuku's actions. She also knew that Izuku would probably have a lot to deal with because of what happened. She actually called Hisashi, letting him know the situation. So he planned a vacation to make his way back down to his home, planning something for the potentially mentally unstable Izuku. Both of his parents wanted to reassure that they still love him, and that there will be people out there that will care for him all the same. On the drive there, Inko and Hisashi looked at each other, smiling, followed by a nod. Izuku, my boy, how would you feel about having a little sibling? Izuku's eyes widened, followed by a smile, clenching his fist in excitement as he raised his hands up to his chest.
I'm gonna have a little sibling? That's so cool! I've always wanted to have a little brother or sister!
Izuku's parents smiled, followed by soft chuckles, as they made their way towards Shinjuku Prefecture. The family went and ate out at Hisashi's favorite restaurant called Benihana, a famous Japanese steakhouse chain. An hour passed by, and they finished their fancy supper, heading out into the city, spending quality time together as a family. Though, as time went on, the less people crowded the streets, and the mood began to change, as the populace descended into single digits per block. Hisashi, Inko, and Izuku turned the corner, both parents holding each of Izuku's hands on either side of him, until they were confronted by a tall, hooded, and silhouetted figure. His presence was antagonizing the family, causing them to tense up under the pressure. The young Izuku spoke softly.
Mommy? Daddy? I'm scared. Who is that man?
Don't worry, sweetie. Mommy and Daddy are here. There's nothing to be scared of. Inko's breath trembled just beneath her voice. She gripped her son's hand slightly tighter, Hisashi doing the same with the other. The man spoke. His voice rumbled with deep intensity.
Don't you think it's a bit rude to assume I'm such a scary man? Parents should teach their kids better manners than that.
The man began raising his right arm. By instinct, Hisashi pushed Izuku and Inko out of harm's way, breathing out a cloud of fire straight at the man. The wind picked up around the flame, causing the hood of the figure to fly off, revealing a bulky, blonde-haired man who had an artificial eye and a crooked smile.
I love it when they fight back in a desperate attempt.
Muscle fibers began forming around the blonde man's arm, blocking the flame and backhanding Hisashi, causing him to instantly knock into a wall, making a crater. His body instantly went limp.
Papa!
Honey! Izuku and Inko screamed with all their might, causing Muscular to laugh at the sound of a child and a screaming mother in a hopeless situation. Hisashi began crawling along the brick rubble, with blood dripping from his head, streaming down his torso, in a hopeless attempt to save his family. Muscular walked over, picking up Hisashi by his face. Hisashi began to breathe fire once again into Muscular's hand directly.
Ah! You bastard! Show me your blood!
Muscular began slamming Hisashi against the pavement, over and over and over again. The more he did it, the more blood leaked out from the back of Hisashi's head. Inko and Izuku could only watch in horror as their loved one was being brutally murdered before their very eyes. Izuku's Parasyte was sleeping in this situation as well, so Izuku couldn't do anything to stop this horrible situation either. Muscular then used his other hand to grab Hisashi by the shoulder, slowly ripping his body unevenly in half, tossing both pieces aside as his organs splattered on the sidewalk.
How fucking annoying! I'm gonna be feeling that one for a while. Now, for you two...
Inko hid Izuku behind her, spreading her arms out in a defensive stance. Tears began to fill up in her eyes as Muscular grabbed her by the arm, raising her up.
So weak and fragile. This'll be fun!
Izuku was watching in horror as his own parents were getting killed in front of him. Inko looked back towards her little baby, tears filling her eyes as she put on a brave smile. It's okay, sweetie. Mommy will always be here for you. Baby, please run away. Mommy will take care of this.
Wait, that's my mommy. You can't touch my mommy!
Shut up, kid. You just sit there and wait like a good little boy. I'll get to you next.
Muscular slammed Inko into the pavement as he held her arm tightly, causing it to get ripped off by the pressure. He then continued by beating her with her own arm, causing it to get smushed in the process. He then tossed the arm aside, picking her up, and threw her straight into the wall, where only her legs were the only things visible. The rest of her body went straight through, as blood began oozing out from the hole she made. Izuku sat there in shock. Standing up slowly, he began walking to the legs of his mother slowly.
Mommy? Are you okay?
Izuku raised his hand to rub his mother's calf. His mindset was broken, completely in denial of what he just witnessed. His eyes were wide.
Mommy? Will my little sibling be okay?
Tears began flowing down his face as his nose got runny. He began to smile.
Mommy? Please wake up. The bad man is still here. I don't feel safe, Mommy.
He was nudging his mother's leg a bit before it snapped off. Izuku stood there as he had it held in each of his arms, hugging it tightly. Thank you all for watching the video to the end. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank the writer for this video, as well as the editor for this video. Their details will be in the description below. If you are a voice actor, editor, or writer, and you're interested in becoming one of those, go to the recruitment Discord in the description below. We're always looking for new members to join. That's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're craving more of this series. Hit that like button. Until next time, peace out, mortals. Have an amazing day!
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from